Good morning. We continue with the story of Paul and Barnabas in Pisidian Antioch. Yes, they were invited in, first of all, to the synagogue to preach and teach there and explain there what it was that they were proclaiming about Jesus and how God had raised him from the dead. But news about what they were preaching and teaching spread to the whole city. And what we find is that the following week and in the weeks following, people just started to come in larger and larger numbers to hear what these apostles were in fact proclaiming in the name of God. The Jews became jealous. They said, no, this is our faith. We don't want these Gentiles coming in. We don't want them interfering with us. This is our faith. This is to us. And when they realize that there's such a large response from the Gentiles, they suddenly become angry and push Paul and Barnabas out and say, we want nothing to do with this. They're wrong, they're wrong, they're wrong. Get rid of them, get them out. And Paul says to them quite simply, well, in that case, I'm going to speak to the Gentiles. I'm going to speak to the Gentiles. And you see, Paul is moving further and further away from the tenets of Judaism. He's moving out more and more to the Gentiles. He says, this Messiah is to be the light that will enlighten the Gentiles. But the anger within the city becomes so great that Paul and Barnabas have to leave. And they leave there and they go down to Iconium, another city. But the anger in Pisidian Antioch is so great that they send people after them. They send people after them to Iconium. And once again the city is stirred up against them. And once again they are threatened. But on all of these occasions, suddenly the church is beginning to be established and is becoming more powerful and is beginning to understand. And so they move on from Iconium. Again, they move on to a place called Lystra. And again, they proclaim the gospel in that place, proclaiming it clearly to the people, whoever they are and wherever they will listen. Yes, they saw great signs being done. People being healed. People being blessed. God was releasing the signs that the people needed in order that they would be able to understand that this teaching and this preaching was from them. But after this ministry in Lystra and Derbe, they decide, well, probably for a time, that's enough. We'll now make our way back through the cities where we've been, through the places where the churches have been established. Because, you see, people needed time. They needed time to establish themselves. And going back, they seek out in every city people who seem to be maturing in the faith. And they anoint them and they bless them, as they had anointed Lazarus in Cyprus. They begin to bless them, laying hands on them. They set up leaders who can lead these people forward and explain to them in greater detail what the faith was all about. So they travel back to the cities where they've been, and they proclaim the gospel again to them, reassuring them, strengthening them, blessing them, and making their way back to Antioch. When they get back to Antioch, they report there as to what has happened, and the people rejoice at what the ministry that's been going on. But we're told they simply stayed there for some time, in prayer, now recuperating after the stress of doing this particular work. Make no mistake about it. Spiritual work is work. Something people often forget. It is truly work. And if you are working for God in this way, you will become tired. And you will become lethargic. Not because the enemy is attacking, but because you have poured out and you need to have time to refill with God and to rethink and to pray in silence. So if any of you listening to this feel that you are called to ministry, and if you are ministering, I say to you very simply, you need time to spend with God. You need time to rest in order that God can bless you and build you up again. There is physical work, there is mental work, and there is spiritual work. We all understand that if we are working hard physically, we need to stop. In fact, our bodies will go to sleep if we don't. We need to stop. We don't really know what sleep does, but it recuperates the body and allows the body to replenish itself. If you are studying, yes, studying is work. I think it takes far more energy than physical work. I remember, for instance, when I was working physically as a young man, as a student on building sites, I could go out and I could work all day and come back and go out all evening and enjoy myself and get up the following day and do another day's work. But suddenly, if you're studying, you'll find you come to a time where your mind won't work anymore and you've got to stop and you've got to rest it. Well, spiritually, it takes even more energy, and we need time to stop and we need time to think. So my advice is, if you are involved in ministry or in the Christian faith altogether, there will be times when you need to stop and just pray and think and rest with God. Amen.